ridiculous ploy that that apparently he's been doing a long time.
That's why it's fascinating when people complain about why do you guys talk about Trump? Everything is Trump, Trump, Trump. That's what Trump wants. He wants the headline. So that's why I get to people complain about it. It's TDS. No, it's not. The man wants to be fucking relevant. He wants to be talked about.
Of course he
different.
Of course he does. And the thing of it is, he's a master at the craft, and I agree with Nye. It's a skill that every politician uses. He's just a lot more overt about that skill. But a perfect case in point, Epstein. He took one tactic with the media and the pressure towards his base, and when that didn't work, he took another tactic, and when that didn't work, he took another one. And are any of us having rooms about Epstein talking about the fact that there's been
adjusts and corrects course as applicable until he hits the thing that works and gets people talking about the things that he wants them to be talking about?
He also has no guide rails, and he's willing to go anywhere. He's willing to tell a lie over and over again until it's perceived as truth. He's willing to demonize and attack other people that he's friends with, on a whim. He's willing to say things off the top of his head at a moment's notice without any kind of censorship, internal censorship. So, all of those traits, his lack of morality and just out of the room, and it goes to their head, but they censor it. They keep themselves under wrap. And Trump doesn't do that. He just says what's on the top of his mind openly, and without guidelines, without his own moral guidelines, dude, sky's the limit for what he can do to get what he wants,
And the people that are stupid for letting him get away with it. Everything you describe is a horrible person. But somehow he's the president and is loved by a good portion of America. It's fucked up.
It's true, Akima, but you know what? I started noticing if you think that, then you're never going to look for somebody that is a decent human being. There are still decent human beings, and there are actually a few decent human beings in politics. Most of them haven't been in for 30 years, but the idea that we're just throwing that in the air and saying, it doesn't fucking matter anymore, character's out the window, we don't give a fuck, we'll put a scumbag in there as long as he gives us what we want. That's our own problem. That's why we're making, we only have ourselves to blame. We get what we deserve. And right now we deserve somebody who's literally a stereotypical disgusting American who eats McDonald's every single day and badmouths everybody, around him. We deserve it.
I don't deserve that motherfucker, Mike. I do not deserve Donald Trump.
Here's the thing.
I get what you said.
Here's the thing, Mike. I'm one of those people that thinks character should matter. I'm one of those people that it took a long time for me to get on the Trump platform because of the fact that I'd already made personal decisions about his character and who he was as a person. And I don't particularly care for his character, but by the same token, when I don't particularly, during the, at least to some degree, was a man of character. They just weren't there to be had. They just were not, it just could not get her. I still have to make a choice. If I want to vote and if I want to feel like the things that are important to me are going to be represented. So in that case, I have to throw my support behind somebody,
Arguably, a lot of the Republicans who became never Trumpers in the beginning were the people who had some more of the character. They were deeply bothered by that in him. I think most recent memory, John McCain is probably somebody that had a lot of character, and he lost the presidency. So I think that the primaries kind of eliminates the need for character because it promotes people that are on the extreme ends of things. If people who are on the extreme ends of things are not the ones necessarily with the most character. So we end up with 70% of America wanting someone who's moderate, but the extremist wins every time on either side because of the primaries. Vote.
And that's a great point, Mike, that the primary eliminates the need for character. And basically, whoever goes the lowest is likely to win. So who gives a fuck about character? And the primary definitely sets that field up like that. That's a good observation. That's crazy though.
Yeah, and the primary also eliminates the opportunity for a third party to ever get any traction. So if you look between the primary and what's the college? What do you call it? With the states, the electoral college. If you look between the primaries and the electoral college, those are just methods of rigging the system to take away a lot of the control that we would have as citizens naturally. The control that we're told we have, right? Like it's up to you. Just vote. You can make changes. Well, those two things put huge dampers on that power that we're given. And the electoral college was put that on there in place for that very reason, to take away some of that power. But I don't think the primaries were necessarily put in for that reason, but I feel like that's what they've resulted in. Necessarily put in. Talking, or if my mic's just dead.
No, you're good. I think it just got quiet.
Yeah, hey, Senator B, I was a never Trumper for, I've never voted for him, but I wouldn't necessarily call myself a never Trumper now. It took me 8 years to come around, and really what I had to witness was the demise of the previous Republican Party. I mean, I agree that neo-con conservatism, the idea of spreading democracy around the world via, all means necessary, it didn't work. It wasn't, in retrospect, it wasn't a good idea. It's something I did believe in the 90s. But I would like a Republican Party with the rest of its values, minus that, a lesson learned. And that doesn't exist. We had to go all out and just throw all of our values out the window, from fiscal responsibility to, everything else, and just disrupt the entire system in order to show that, how bad the Democrats are. And in doing that, we got a guy that is a disruptor who made the entire process about himself. And thankfully he'll be heading out. I think he was in some ways necessary for our country to put into question a lot of the status quo that we were getting too comfortable with. I love his focus on fighting, men and women's sports, things like that. That's the kind of shit that was getting way too out of control. And I'm glad that there's somebody there for that. Immigration, I'm glad there's somebody that talks a lot more about it and at least says he wants to do something about it, points a finger at it. I mean, there's a lot of things he's done that, that I think I completely disagree with all aspects of.
Right.
I feel like, disruptor in chief is what he is. He's disrupting the status quo for executive actions. He's disrupting the system of presidential or executive power versus judicial power. He's disrupting the balance of the Superior Court. I mean, he's disrupting a shit ton of stuff, and it's causing us to decide who we do want to be going forward. And I think it was about fucking time, because it was going downhill.
I agree, and that's primarily why I still throw my support behind him. I don't think that everything he does is right. He is not like, I don't idolize him, but I feel like I was given a choice, and I made the best choice between the two candidates that I had. And so at this point, he is our president, and I also feel like it, lump it, or lump it, or dump it. If he's the president, we have to kind of, we just have to support our leadership. I mean, he's in that role right now, so we have to get behind it and support it.
I mean, realistically, I'm not a liberal, and that I don't want to blow up the entire country and start from scratch like a lot of them wish they could. So because I don't want that, I have to ultimately wish for the best of the country, and I have to support whoever's in charge and hope that they're going to be successful, not make us weaker than we already are, And I don't know if he's that guy or not, but when he's in the position, I have to shut my mouth. It's kind of like when I was in the Marine Corps, people used to say I support. During the Iraqi War, they would say, I support the troops, but I don't support the war. And I would say, well, the troops are under fire right now in war. And you saying you don't support the war, and even worse yet, speaking out against the war, like obnoxiously so in public, is only weakening their ability to hopefully win the war. And whether or not you believe in the war, I don't think you want them to lose the war. And if you do, then that's unpatriotic. And so I would tell people, like, they say, I support the troops, I support the war. And I say, well, how do you do that? You're using your mouth to talk shit about their job they're doing right now. You're not sending them care packages. You're not sending them money. Like, what the fuck do you mean you support the troops? Is that just like you just think you do because you say it, and saying it makes it real when you have absolutely no action behind it? The least you can do is shut your fucking mouth when they're under fire and say, well, they don't fucking need people talking shit about their jobs. I mean, firefighters. I support firefighters, but I don't support fighting fires. What the fuck? I mean, when they're in the building fighting the fire, shut your fucking mouth till they get back out of the danger zone, you know?
Right. Well said.
Yeah, I disagree with that. I think as a man, you got an obligation to speak up against a war you don't agree with, and you can support the soldiers in the sense where
It's not cool to put your phone number up for that 50th person.
soon, and you hope they get home safely. That's the way you support them, but you don't have to support a war.
Supreme Aces he was going on and on about
So what method do you use? So what method do you use to support them without supporting the war? So I agree that they shouldn't necessarily be the same thing, but you're not supporting the troops if you're out talking shit about what they're doing when they're being killed. That's not supporting the troops. Saying I want the troops to come home safely is just like flapping your gums. It doesn't have any relevance.
No, I think supporting the troops is getting out, making your saying to the government, and hopefully they will listen and end the fucking war. That's bring the troops home. In the war that you have no business.
As one of the troops, I can tell you that didn't feel like any kind of support. But I mean, they're over there doing it. They're breaking down doors. If you want to influence
Some of the troops appreciated people at home asking for the war to end. I'm so.
If you want to act to influence their commander-in-chief who's giving the directive for them to be under 5 acres, you could argue that's supported in an indirect manner. But just saying, bring them home and keep them safe, and I hope they come home safe and end this shit now is not supportive of them when they're over there at the time. It's just not. I mean, they don't feel like it. So if they don't feel like it, who the fuck calls you to say they did?
well done, Frank. Please don't smoke. They are car insurance agent.
I think that's the number one issue. Issue with that, and the people that's
regular death threats of murder, slaughter, and kill people in detail for hours.
All the orders of the commander-in-chief. And I mean, for instance, when I was a Marine, I didn't say shit about my commander-in-chief to take direct orders. If you're not the kind of person that's capable of putting yourself in that position to be the guy with that role, then I totally think you can say things. I mean, it's sort of a very natural thing, right? I don't see how somebody could think that they can speak for the people that have actually put their bodies in harm's way in an effort to win something that it wasn't their choice to go into in the first place. I don't see how those same people that aren't willing to do that could claim that they speak for the people that are doing it. I didn't hear when service members come back from war, sometimes they'll speak their voices about what they think about it. But when they're over there, they don't do that. They don't all just sit around and talk about how bullshit the war is when they're busy watching their brothers die. They fucking do what they can to kick ass. And they take their job seriously. And I just think it's a different mentality. The people that put their lives on the line for something greater than themselves, and the people that have never physically done that but use their mouth parts to act like it's the same thing. There's a difference between those two things.
Mike, I agree with you 100%. Thank you for your service to our company. I didn't realize you were that.
Oh, I appreciate it, Kane. Thank you.
Yeah, it's a little story about me, but my goal was when I was a kid to serve, and my dad, of course, being an immigrant was like, don't serve, don't do it, you'll die, and all that stuff. But I had a lot of friends that were in the military, and they were just telling me, and I felt so patriotic. I tried to serve, and friends of mine showed me, like, this is how it is. And I was like, oh shit, I'm gonna get my ass kicked. All right, let me look at some of this. A friend of mine was in Army Rangers. He showed me that, and I was like, oh fuck. Pardon my language. Oh shit. So I ended up a friend of mine was like, you're kind of nerdy. Why don't you go for Air Force? So I went, signed up, did everything, and then I had asthma, severe asthma at that time. So I came outside, took a puff of my asthma inhaler, and the guy saw from the window, came running out. He goes, what's that? I said, it's my inhaler. And he ripped up the paperwork. He goes, can't go. All my friends were like, you should have if you had just held out, you could have gotten down there. They would have taken care of you for life. I said, nah, I don't want to do that, man. Like, I wanted to actually serve and do something. So now I do government contracting, so I help a lot of veterans. I only hire veterans. I've gotten accused of discrimination, but I only hire veterans to work for.
Oh, I appreciate it. That's amazing. That's amazing. Remember too that when I joined in '91 as a junior in high school, there was no internet or YouTube. So how do you even know what boot camp's like, right? To your point, you can ask other people's experiences and they can tell you stories, but there was no fucking video to watch to fully understand what you're getting yourself into. And when in the Marine Corps, you arrive at MCRD San Diego, in my case, on a bus in the middle of the fucking night on purpose, pitch black. And that fucking drill instructor comes up, man. If you can imagine sitting in a bus in the dark, and there's always like a light up front on the bus. It's inside to interior, like the whole bus isn't lit. It's only up the front by the driver. And that fucking drill instructor walks up those stairs of that bus when you arrive at MCRD, and all you see is a shadow in his fucking hat. And you just start screaming to get your fucking ass off that bus now as fast as possible. And you're all scrambling over each other, and then there's these footprints that you stand on for your first taste of like what it means to stand at attention. And from then on, man, they keep you awake for 2.5 days with no sleep, and they fucking shake it up sometimes so you look like an idiot because they don't give a shit. So it's just this smack of awareness, and then you just, by the end of 2 days, you're completely exhausted, and it feels like a blur. Like everything, like you literally, you just feel like you're in a tornado. And then they finally let you sleep for a few hours, and you fall asleep forgetting where you're at, and you wake up like, oh fuck, what I got myself into. It's a scary fucking time, I'll tell you that.
Some of the commanders that spoke to said some of that stuff is not allowed in the last, I think 5 or 8 years or so. The military said, you can't do these kinds.
The only service that refuses to train men and women together, and to this day, they fight it. They have to fight it constantly, but they've been able to hold it. And the Marine Corps would not be the Marine Corps if they had to train side by side. I mean, I can tell you I've never been on a 20-mile hike with an 80-pound pack where any single female Marine made it to the end. But I didn't expect them to, because there's other stuff that they could do, like bent arm hangs and stuff that we couldn't do. So, it just doesn't make any sense to train them together. You're never going to get the most out of the guys. And the Marine Corps needs... they're the extreme end of it. They need people who are very, very, very...
Buford, you probably know it. Buford Marine Corps base. So I was over there, and I remember I walked in, you'll probably take a kick out of this. I was at the administrative building, and I was looking at the wall, and I was talking to a couple of people, and I was like, hey, this wall is wrong. I said, what do you mean? It says president, it says vice president, right? Then it talks about Secretary of Defense, and then it mentions... the Secretary of the Navy. I said, it says Secretary of the Marine Corps. I said, where's the Secretary of the Navy? And then they all look at me, shake their head, and then walk away. And I said, you guys are under the Navy, aren't you? They're like, dude, you want to keep your contract here? I'm like, why? Don't say that. I'm like, but it is under the Navy. I'm like, the contracts are written through the Navy. He goes, that may be so, but don't talk about it here. Treat us like we're a separate branch. I said, but you're not. They go, dude, troops, so we are a separate branch. And I said, okay, yep, you're a separate branch. So every time I go to that thing, I look at the wall, I never say a word. I just go, okay, it's missing Secretary of the Navy, but that's all right. And I think that's by design. They hate the Navy. I mean, not that they hate the Navy, they just don't want to be under the Navy.
No, they don't want to be under the Navy, but they actually have a very good relationship with the Navy because when we go to war, we do ride on ships, Remember that in Grenada or whatever it was in the 90s, we had a thing that Clinton did where he had the U.S. Army handle it, but he took them in on ships. And I heard horrible stories about the relationship between soldiers and sailors. Sailors hated soldiers on their ships. They didn't even want them on there because that was really the role of the Marine Corps. So when it comes to actually serving together, you know, the Navy provides the corpsmen for the Marine Corps. The Navy provides the Seabees for the Marine Corps, who do all the construction and building of, you know, bridges and structures and things like that. So they actually work very nicely side by side, but Marines don't want to be identified as a Department of the Navy, mainly because the Navy's just kind of cheesy. Even their white hats are embarrassing.
Broken out. Why can't they break out the Marine Corps? It's got to be politics.
I don't know. The Marine Corps existed before the Navy. The Marine Corps was the first service ever in 1775. So, you know, the Navy actually came from the Marines. So, if anything, it should be the other way around, maybe. I think it's probably the sizes of the services. The Marine Corps is very small. The Marine Corps is insanely efficient with their budget. We get all the hand-me-down bullshit, leftover stuff from the other services. The Air Force is by far the least bang for your buck. They're the most expensive to operate on a case-by-case basis, you know, on the individual airmen. The Marine Corps.
Do you think you could kick a Navy SEAL's ass, Mike?
No. So I was a combat photojournalist in the Marine Corps, which meant I was Joker in Full Metal Jacket, basically, but outside of combat, I was a news reporter. And I could do my own story subject matter, so I could just choose to go align with the unit, do what I wanted to do. I was very I didn't have much direction in my role. And I did a story one time in San Diego about the Navy SEAL training. I went over to Coronado, and I didn't train with them. I trained with them after Hell Week. I trained with the actual, you know, real SEALs after they graduated, but I saw the Hell Week people doing what they were doing. And no, I think Navy SEALs are harder than the Marines, but they're also a special force. And if you take the Marine Corps and you look at what they are, you know, 2/3 of special forces, but you got a whole group, you know, got hundreds of thousands of people doing that. So they're not quite as elite as the Navy SEAls, but share a lot of the same things. Like, you can't be in the Marine Corps if you can't swim really well. Most of the people who got kicked out of boot camp were because they couldn't swim hard enough. You know, and in some cases, I was water survival qualified in the Marine Corps by choice, because I wanted to be a lifeguard as a part-time job on base, and I had to get water survival qualified, which means that I had to swim for 24 hours in my camis with a backpack and a rifle and my boots without, you know, in the deep end of the pool for 24 hours. And at that point, you're doing what's about the same as what the Navy SEALs go through. But they do two things that scare me a lot. One of them is they have one of those deep dive tanks where they have to hold their breath and go super fucking deep. And that scares the shit out of me, because I saw guys passing out and being brought up by divers and like resuscitated. Put me to that extreme, right? So for that kind of stuff. I mean, they did put me extreme for water survival qualified training, but even then, I didn't have to do necessarily what SEALs do. I mean, SEALs go out in the ocean and freeze their asses off on purpose.
Yeah, I mean, part of the construction group, have a couple of divers.
You were in the Matrix a little bit, unless it was just me.
Now, can you hear me now?
Barely.
During this interruption, in another language, if you don't mind, please revert to English.
Yeah, I don't know if you guys can hear me, but I have a contract with Naval Construction Group, and they have these UCT, which is the underwater construction team, and man, these guys are like divers. They go all the way under. They like actually build and repair, and they have this special machine that brings the tools down. So I was like, oh my god! I was like, this is like incredible. I would never do it, but this is incredible.
It goes down 300 feet and welds, bottom oil wells and stuff. And it's a true story about a guy that he died down there and was brought back to life, and nobody knows how he lived, basically. But I can't remember who was in that.
Is it a documentary or a movie?
Oh, I know Woody the movie, but I know Woody Harrelson was in it because he was the lead.
Wasn't it called The
He was
Abyss?
like the boss of the diver.
Not the Matrix.
Yeah, Mike, you were going in and out of the Matrix. I was trying to hear the name of the star so I could look up them.
It's not called The Abyss, but Woody Harrelson's in it, and it's in the last three.
Sorry.
It's not Last Breath, is it?
Yes, that. Yeah.
Yeah, I just looked it up. Okay. It came out this year, it says. Follows a group of deep sea divers racing against time to rescue a stranded teammate after a catastrophic accident. All right. Well, anyway, guys, welcome to In the Muff. If you just joined the room, sometimes we have these moments where everybody goes silent because folks are working in the background. But
I'm sorry.
No, it's all good. Hey, we're only human, right?
Good morning.
Good morning. Good morning.
Sorry, yeah, I was working. And then I was just like, oh wait, got quiet. And then I jumped off.
Yeah, I was looking at the stage. I was reading about working on this piece about this pastor who was being critical of BET and the BET Awards and how harmful it's been to the Black community. And then I looked on the stage. I'm like, oh wait, no one's talking. Well, welcome Princess to the stage. I don't know if you've had a chance to speak, but the mic is yours. I think we're just going popcorn style, huh?
Yeah. Hey girl, how are you?
I'm good. I'm trying to figure out how to make it so that I'm also working in the background to make it so when I am clicking on my emails and it shows the preview to the right and Outlook, I don't want it to consider that a read email, and I don't know how to change it back. Currently trying to do that.
Gotcha.
Just right click it and view unread.
I know you can right click it and like make it back to mark as unread.
Yeah, my previews don't make them look red.
I know mine. I have a loaner computer because I had to wipe my old computer because
Put it down.
it's fun.
Thanks, babe. Keep it there. I'm just straightening this curly.
It's kind of dumb and it's not a big deal. But the one thing I like about it is it gives you email summaries without having to click on it. And the summaries just say like, so-and-so is asking for this to be done by Wednesday. It just takes the whole email and just briefs it, sticks it up front. I really like that, actually.
I do too. I don't like it so much with my text messages because I feel like
it's funny, it's cheesy sometimes. I can't even think of a good example, but every now and then I'll have a laugh out loud moment because of how it describes what's being said in the email.
Same. I'm just like, okay, that's not really what's going there. But good try. A for effort. But I do like the email recaps. I find it to be a lot more concise there. Probably because it has more information to go on. Okay, I think the curly hair is gone again, y'all. Okay.
Don't be hating on the curly hair.
Oh, girl. My hair is a fucking atrocity. It's so freaking cool.
And she dies for curly hair.
Oh, yeah.
It's the exact opposite. She's constantly trying to curl it.
You always want what you... Yeah, it was board straight when I up until I was like 13 or so. And then I don't know what happened. Like, it just went crazy. And mine's really, really thick, so it's very unruly when it's curly. It's just going to stick out everywhere.
I swear mine has changed postpartum.
A lot of people say that. Mine never did. I wish the curl would have gone away.
So I have like one full sibling, and he has like super curly hair, and it's interesting because like I've seen all these TikToks and stuff. They're like, if your hair like air dries like this, you probably have curls. You're just not styling it right. So I think that like I have like one of the like entry level like wavy curly hairs types. But I've just been styling it straight forever.
That's my daughter. Hers isn't super curly like mine, but it's definitely got some natural wave.
I just want to address Joel in the comments, and he said, Princess, yes, freedom to leave, because I asked, because he was making a comment in regarding the percentages from the poll, and I said, we have freedom, or is it just a facade? Because he was saying that 22% of people are idiots. I'm assuming the people that voted blue in our poll. I view it as a freedom of speech, and my husband and my family members have all served to protect that freedom of speech. So I definitely that's where my poll vote came from.
Yeah, I'm surprised. I'm really surprised that Protect the Stars and Stripes is leading. I feel like most veterans would not choose that. They would choose the blue. But I don't know.
I mean, I agree. I chose the yes, Protect the Stars and Stripes simply because, to John's point earlier, if people can be fined and or jailed for burning the LGBT flag, why aren't we protecting the American flag too? I think that's my whole position with that.
Is that on a federal level? I don't know. I don't know about the like burning of the LGBT flag, which I would consider myself an ally.
Yeah, I don't know if that's true. I mean, if it is, you're agreed. That's bullshit.
Yeah.
That doesn't make me still think that you can't burn the American flag, but it makes me definitely think that the gay flag should not be protected more than the American flag.
You should be able to burn anything that you bought. If it's on your property, you're going to say, I don't care what it is.
I agree.
And there's somebody else today,
Amused by this conversation about burning the flag because in our U.S. flag code, it doesn't technically allow for the flag to be on like used as like clothing items. So like all of these people, which I have a ton of patriotic clothing, and so does my husband, and so does my baby, which technically per U.S. flag code, it's not technically allowed.
Correct.
So if we want to get like in the nitty gritty of protecting our flag, people that are being very patriotic are technically not falling within the U.S. flag code.
Even the police do use the blue stripe.
Correct.
They're not falling. That's not get too technical.
It really kind of freaks me out. It always has to watch them manhandle a flag like at the Olympics or after like a track meet with the American. They hand them a full flag, and they wrap themselves in it. It's always given me the heebie-jeebies because it's not just clothing with like stars and stripes on it. It's the real flag, and they wrap it around their body. And I know it's not supposed to touch the ground. And it's like, I mean, I used to be part of details in the Marine Corps where I had to deploy the flag up a pole in the morning and bring it down at sunset. And the way we handled it was so incredibly respectful to just see some guy grab it and wrap it around his body and walk down the track with it just kind of really freaks me out. It just doesn't look right.
That's really interesting. I've never like thought about it from that perspective. I think that is really good point to make. I've never, because I never thought twice about it. I just thought they were being patriotic.
That's a huge debate in the photography community too. The wrapping the flag around.
Oh yeah.
I mean, yeah, when it's a real flag, you know what I mean? Like if they had it on their clothing or something, it doesn't bother me. But just the real flag doing that to it makes I like it.
No, I want to wait to purchase flips. I know these men have left.
Wow.
Signatures, so they fit in the photos.
They're not here anymore.
Every change of
Dang it.
Your birds always sound so lovely in the background, Serendipity. Like it just sounds like wherever you live just sounds so peaceful. I don't know if it is. Could be chaos. But the birds definitely make it sound peaceful.
It is peaceful.
We have a lot of trees in Georgia. We're like known as the city in the forest, right? We have more trees per square mile than any other city in the United States, major city. And people don't know that, but like my backyard has a green space behind it. And I have one of those bird houses with a camera on it, so you can like watch what the birds do on your phone. And dude, they chirp loud all day long. You see during COVID. During COVID, I would sit on my porch pretty much all day on Clubhouse, and the background would be chirping all the time. And I'd have multiple people ask me to like remain on mic just so they could listen to it. We have really loud birds in Georgia.
We really do. I have my voice isolation on so that she could even hear, because when it's not on, people comment endlessly about, oh my gosh, the birds in the background. And sometimes like it's a bit too much. And where I used to live, next door neighbor had chickens, and one of the first years of their chicken roof had a couple roosters that crowed all the time. And one of them, I swear, he was like sick or something. He was one of those that right in the middle of his cock-a-doodle-doo, he'd like choke himself. And he'd start and it'd be just like, oh God, the rooster just died. Awful. It's like, listen, it's the sick rooster. They're growing right now. Get up there. It's like, this is terrible.
Hey, the love of God has got me deep.
I watched this, I don't know what it was. Oh, sorry, go ahead.
Don't move, stop.
I told him to go ahead while he was talking.
Serendipity, have you downloaded Merlin Bird ID for your iPhone?
I haven't.
It's from a university that it's a university project, so it's free download for public, called Merlin Bird ID. And you just hit record and you hold your phone in the air and while the birds are talking, and it shows you which bird is which, and it even like highlights them when they make a noise, so you can see it like bouncing between the different types of birds, and then it collects birds.
Oh, I love that.
It's really cool. Like while you're sitting there, you should download it and just play it, and it saves them. So I have like I have an owl in my yard. The ones that go. Those guys, I don't know what they're called, but they go. And they do he does it constantly, but he does it. So I did it, and I can't remember what kind of owl he is, but it caught it on there, and then it records it, so you can listen to it later.
I'm downloading it right now. We have tons of cardinals. Like I see all of ours. We've got oodles and caboodles of cardinals, and they're so aggressive.
So when I used to watch my birdhouse a lot, I started noticing birds remind me of jets, different kinds of jets. So like woodpecker, and woodpeckers are the most aggressive, right? They're the biggest assholes. They'll kick anybody out. I think I'm breaking up. I don't know if I'm breaking up.
No, you're not. You're not.
Okay. So I would watch birds and like I'm comparing the jets. So like the F-35 is definitely like the woodpeckers because they can take anything out. And then like cardinals remind me of EA-60 Palace, which are those radar jamming airplanes that used to have the big like fuel thing sticking out the front, like phallic like almost. They remind me of those. And I watch how they interact with each other. And there's a total hierarchy of breeds, right? Like blue jays are really aggressive as well. But
Yes, they are.
a blue jay can kick a cardinal out. But a woodpecker will kick everybody out.
I did not know that the woodpeckers were aggressive to other birds.
The big ones, yeah, the big ones.
Yeah.
I mean, for tiny woodpeckers, no, but the big woodpeckers are brutal. If you want to know, do you have like a bird feeder?
No, not right now.
Okay, so if you had a bird feeder, if you put mullet, the stuff that's like it's square, it's like got fat, it's a bunch of seeds and fat. If you hang that next to a bird feeder, the woodpeckers love that shit because they'll stand on it and peck their beaks right through it. And every time they arrive there, everybody splits, and they're super aggressive. They start pounding through that stuff. Like there's a big woodpecker in Georgia that it's red and it has black and white stripes on it. I can't remember the name of it, but that thing is fucking he's an asshole.
And we have whippoorwills too. We have quite a few whippoorwills.
I don't know what those are.
You know, you always know when you start hearing the whippoorwills that summer's right around the corner. They're like one of the first birds that you start hearing, and their call is, I mean, that's where they get their name from. It sounds like they're saying whippoorwill.
I wonder what they are. I wonder if is that the actual bird name though? Because I've never captured one on my Merlin.
You haven't?
That's why I'm wondering if it has a different technical name. They're just.
Let me look. Hold on. Whippoorwill. Let me see if they. Oh wait, that's the App Store. Let me go back to Safari.
Well, while she's getting that, I just want to say I have a fabulous bird feeder, but listening to this conversation, I think I might upgrade. I've been thinking about for the past year getting one with the camera built in. And that mullet stuff you were talking about, I get that a lot for the birds. I just put it on the ground, but only in the winter. I only give it to them in the winter. I don't give it to them in the summer. But I just put it on the ground, and they come and swoop it right up. It's gone within a matter of minutes.
If you hang it though, you'll get woodpeckers because it's vertical. Like they won't eat it off the ground, but they'll hang on it if it's vertical.
Okay, right on. I will keep that in mind. Very good.
Yeah.
It's not saying. Okay. Antrostomus vociferus, I guess is the whippoorwill. But whippoorwill comes up pretty regularly on Safari.
Find it on that Merlin app.
All right.
Because you can look through the bird list for your region. You download a region pack from there for wherever you live, and it has a list of everything that exists.
Continue.
My favorite birds in Georgia, my favorite ones on my feeder are Carolina wrens. They're super cute. The way that they move is so cute. They're little fat brown like fur balls. I guess they're feather balls.
I have an affinity to them.
But they hop.
Just because my granddaughter's name is Ren.
Mike, I was just creeping on your photography. I really like your style. It feels like, okay, as a typical military spouse, I did photography as a hobby for a little bit, but I like your editing style. It feels to me like a very like crisp, moody. Like it's very moody, but like your images are so crisp.
Yeah.
It better be. He's a photographer, David.
The reason they are is because my specialty is lighting, so I know a shit ton about lighting. I've been doing it for like 30 years.
Yeah.
And most everything that I do is overridden ambient, which means I'm actually working with at least one big flash to replace my key light. So that what people don't understand is if you override ambient, meaning something like a flash, which is insanely bright compared to like any kind of steady panel light or something, that increase in contrast ends up putting the picture in a situation without editing, because most of what I do requires almost no editing. It ends up putting it into a situation where your eyeballs see a maximum amount of contrast at any given moment because the light is coming from all directions. But when you override it, by default, it increases contrast and sharpness. So I always say you can have a completely shitty camera and a shitty lens, and you can have a insanely sharp tack focus image by having powerful lights rather than your camera and your lenses.
Interesting. So that would explain why I could never achieve that look, because I have like
right.
But yeah, that would explain why my pictures never looked like crisp like that. I'm like looking at your pictures, I'm like, dang, these are so
well, and if you go down to the product photography, down at the bottom of that Instagram, any kind of products that's there, those things are insanely sharp, and that is because I'm using an incredible amount of light. I'm using 35,000 watt seconds, which is, it's like the sun almost. Like if you don't blink every time you fire your flash, your eyeballs will get burnt like you're at the beach all day. And I'm using f/22 ISO 100, which means the camera is seeing absolutely nothing without the light itself.
Yeah.
And now when you do that, you do that with product because you want to get depth of field. You want to make sure that it's in focus from the front to the back. But when your lights are very powerful, like 640 watt seconds, which are like Einstein's, really bright lights, when you have multiples of those and you get up to into the 30,000 watt second range, I do stuff for Home Depot and major retailers because they require that. Not like online retailers don't give a shit, they don't know the difference, but major retailers, that's why they go to big studios for that stuff, because the studios are using powerful lights.
And glass helps with the sharpness and natural light settings, and you can also use the speed light in conjunction with natural light as well.
But if you use the speed light to augment natural light, you're not going to pull off what I'm doing in those pictures. It won't.
No, they won't.
It's a very it's more that's more like a fill scenario, like using light to augment natural light.
Right.
This is using light to replace natural light, which is a whole other level.
Yeah.
To be honest with you, professional photographers 20 years ago, everybody knew how to do it, or you weren't even in the industry. But it became it got watered down with lackluster talent. I call it the democratization of mediocrity. Basically, the expectations were lowered because it was oversaturated with average talent, and clients lost track of like what to expect. And then prices went down, overall value decreased, which is why I'm an electrician bearing the week now instead of a full-time photographer like I was for 30 years.
Hello and welcome. Our topic today is understanding mythology, and my guest is perhaps the world's foremost mythologist, Joseph Campbell, the author of The Hero with 1,000 Faces.
Mediocre talent, and a lot of them went the way of teaching more mediocre talent to make their money in photography.
Oh, they learned the basics and now they're a teacher. Yeah.
Exactly. Yes.
Yeah, like here, pay whatever $19.99 to get my
stems from
pro tip manual
from our own experiences. That
right. Yeah, exactly.
Story or experience comes from our experiences as human beings in a physical body.
Yes, happy Tuesday.
Quite contrary to earlier idea that
I had fun with it. I only did it for like a couple years. I did it for like a hobby 1 year, and then the second year I was like, okay, I'll try to like do this like as like a business, and then I was like, no, I don't have time for this shit. I work full time. Like this is a lot.
I still do television movies occasionally, but I only do them for a day or two at a pop. I don't do like long stints anymore. So,
and I feel like that's pretty industry standard at this point.
Yeah, it is. Well, it's harder than ever though.
Yeah, and because there's like a couple here that does photography that I used to go to church with them, and they like are like $5,000 for like their lowest package, and you have to have a full-time wedding planner to even work with them. Like they won't work with you unless you have a planner. Like,
yeah, so
it's like crazy.
What's interesting about that is if you look at my raw files, they look almost identical to the finished work because I shoot everything in real time, like the way it is. So I have very little post-production. So what people don't realize is I charge $3,500 for a wedding, but I only have 10 hours total in it. So I'm making $350 an hour. Post-production for a photographer is losing money because you're not a digital artist, you're a photographer. And digital artists are worth $60, $80 an hour. Photographers are worth $300 an hour all day long. But that's photographers who know what they're doing, and they do it in camera. And in some cases, commercial-wise, they tether it to capture one so they can edit on the fly so that they don't have after post-production work after the fact. In the case of weddings, you have to use a flash full-time to do that, or writing ambient most of the time, which is what I do. At 20 hours of post-production, you just lost money the entire time you're doing it. And you lost the available time that you would have, the 20 hours of free time. So you're wasting your free time, you're losing money the entire time. And so the goal is I can charge $3,500, which is more than enough for me because I have very limited amounts of posts required. So it's a $60,000, $70,000 part-time job for 25 days of work, essentially, which takes out $6,000 a wedding, which means that it's almost easier to find, middle-income average people. There's a lot more people that can afford $3,500 than $6,000 a wedding.
I think some of them, they price themselves out because they want to shoot a certain type of wedding, which is fine. Like, you can pick whatever clientele you want.
Right, but what's kept me from doing that is my inability to maintain long-term relationships with planners and people like that. I just don't play the social game well enough to constantly be schmoozing, going to conferences with people and showing up and saying hi to them and sending out emails all the time to remind them that I exist. I don't do that because I don't find me. Over time, you start losing, those recommendations because they just kind of forget about it. Everyone has short-term memory. So the only way you can build and maintain steady relationships with high-end planners who have high-end clients. And that is something I've never enjoyed doing. I've never reached outside of that price point. I've done quantity over quality and quantity. Like they say, good, fast, cheap, pick two. No, I'm all three. I mean, I literally am, and that's what people don't understand. But that's just because I have 50,000 hours into it. I mean, I was a combat photojournalist in the Marine Corps, and then I worked as a news photojournalist, and then I owned a photo studio that did work for Home Depot and Lowe's and Walmart and all those people, and then I got into television movies. So I've just always prioritized.
Because I started it because of the art. Like I
exactly
the art of taking photos and having the eye for different shots.
Exactly.
For me, I struggled on the technical side of figuring out camera settings, figuring out lighting, figuring out post-production, all of that. Like that was just a
product that needs to remain highly consistent, that needs to be, represent on your website what the client's going to get when they pay the money. When I go to a wedding, for instance, I'm ADHD, so it helps a lot because in my brain I can stand in a room and I got 50 things I can do, and I call them widgets. So I know that if I move a chair under a window and I put black shoes on there, I'm going to get the toe of the shoe is going to get a cap light from the window above. If I frame it a certain way with my 50 millimeter, I call it the shoe under the window shot that's almost up to 50. And so I have thousands of those now. So I walk in a room and it's almost like I have an overlay on my eyes where I can everything jumps out at me for opportunities. And I go, okay, I'm going to do these 3 today or these 4 today. And it's all repeating what I've done. I mean, every time I shoot a wedding, I try to do one thing I've never done before. If I've been to the venue 100 times, I'll find a new shot at that venue I've never done before each time. But that's more for the venue because I'll always do the key shot. So imagine you're at a wedding venue and there's a barn there and everybody's going to do the bride and groom in front of the barn. Great. I'll do that because that's the one that everybody does.
but I'll go do one from a completely different angle, maybe go into the woods behind it, shoot with the trees, framing it a certain way that nobody's ever done. That one's for the venue. And I always do that. I always do the basic one that I do. So I maintain good relationships with venues. That's where I get most of my work. I just don't chase planners. And planners is what you need for high end.
Yeah, just growing up and as a young mom, but for me, like journaling, one of my fondest memories was going to my grandma's house and pulling out old photo albums and looking at all the ridiculous photos. And I wanted to journal different perspectives of my kids and their life, you know, as they grew and do things. Like it wasn't so much about here, smile and say cheese. It was, I want to remember them doing this right here, like in their natural element, you know. That's why I got into it.
Yeah, there's production artists and there's creative artists, and they're not the same. So even when I was like in Home Depot headquarters, I was an executive for them for 18 years of my life, and I was a creative manager in their advertising department. And I was always better at like building the templates that were used for the ads. I would build out templates. I would take an idea that somebody had, or maybe I came up with originally, and I would build it 20 different ways and repeat elements over and over again, just fine-tuning them for more and more efficiency to make it more effective but easier to build in the long run. Like that was my strength. It's never to start with a blank piece of paper. I was an incredible editor of other people's work, more so than a creator from scratch of my own work. Whereas that's where weddings, with all my experience, that's where like the monotony becomes a strength for me. Whereas the monotony for other people becomes, they start second guessing their creativity because they start doing the same things over and over again.
And that's like how I started to get that way when I had like my year of like, okay, I'm gonna try to see if like, okay, let me go through the the process of being.
But once you start repeating successes, things that have been successful for clients in the past are going to be successful for clients in the future. So once you start finding yourself repeating things in routine, and so I knew that like every time I was doing a portrait outside, I was going to use a 70 millimeter or above for a full-length portrait because I wanted to decrease my depth of field, but I would use a 50 millimeter below for a half-length portrait because I wanted depth of field. And I made it a rule that I never broke from. So and then I started memorizing settings so I could shoot a whole wedding in 3 settings. Like if it was outdoors, I would do aperture priority 2.8 off-camera flash 8 feet back, 8 feet to the right on half power for a cloudy day, full power for a sunny day. And then when I go inside, I need to be more conservative on my shutter speed because I might have reduced shutter speeds and I'll get blur. So then I would do shutter priority 1/125th of a second, 1600 ISO, and my cameras would be on quarter power, my flashes. So I had like 3 settings, and I shot for like 10 years. I shot weddings on 3 settings the entire time. And then I started getting more creative, and my work back then looked less dramatic because I was basically averaging out light on a regular basis by using shutter and aperture priority. But as I got more advanced, I started shooting manual full time and then really controlling it. But I just built habits and memorize settings for 10 years that are defaults, they're fallbacks. So like if you don't know that aperture priority 2.8 at 400 ISO for a cloudy day is a default setting, then a wedding's scary because sometimes you're in a pinch and you're in a hurry and you're moving from one position to another and the light drastically changes. You should be able to drop it in without thinking about it. Like you need to convert your understanding to muscle memory so your hand does the setting without your brain thinking about it. Then after you have some time, once you've like gotten what you need in that split second, you can then take the time to pause and start thinking about where you're at and start readjusting. But you have to have fallback settings that your hands can do without your brain being involved, or the job will never get easy. And once you get to the point where I am, where it's all second nature, I don't think about a fucking thing. I'm thinking about the next project I'm going to do at home, building something the entire time shooting the wedding. And that's where I'm at now after all these years. I've done over 1,000 weddings. So at this point, it's autopilot. So if you look at like I'm charging $3,500 a wedding, I'm putting 10 hours into it, and it's not much work anymore. Like what kind of fucking part-time job can give you that, you know?
For sure. Yeah, and it's funny because like I think about there was this venue that I was able to book for 2 different boudoir clients, and I loved my venue for the first time and be creative. And then the second time it just felt like, I'm trying to like recreate all of this and like do all the same things, and I absolutely hated that.
Dude, we're such different people.
You're like, oh yeah, I know exactly what to do, and now I'm like, well, this is boring already on the second try.
Exactly. Like I know my first 3 or 4 times at a venue, I'm never gonna be happy with the work. I'm only gonna happy 5. I start getting happy after 3 or 4 or 5 visits. That's when I really figure out what I haven't thought about before. Like that's when I really have the time to really deep dive into being creative. I can't be creative the first time. There's too many options. There's too many things to look at when you're first there. But after you've been there 3 times, you can eliminate, basically your efficiency increases. I'm obsessed with efficiency. That's what ADHD people usually are obsessed with, efficiency, because basically what ADHD mind does is it pays attention to a tremendous amount of details, and it compares and contrasts details in order to weed out things that are typically going to be repeated. So you start identifying opportunities for efficiency where 1 + 1 = 3 instead of 2 in a lot of options, metaphorically speaking. That's what ADHD mind does. It basically, it's a higher it's like a computer running at a higher megahertz. So it's analyzing and calculating much more data than a typical mind does. It's paying overly too much attention to everything at once. But that's a strength, because as long as you can tame it, you're basically running at a higher operating speed, which means you can run circles around most regular people. Albeit regular people don't want to be trying to outdo it. I know. But that's why photography, controlling lighting, but you're also managing a crowd. You're also creating a product that needs a consistent workflow of predetermined things, right? I need a full length and a half length portrait, vertical and horizontal of the bride. I need the same for the groom. I need a table setting shot and a table wide shot and a room shot. So there's a list of things I need to get. But I'm also managing the crowd and the people, and I'm trying to maintain, build this artificial friendship with the family and the bride herself, and it's just a lot of things going on, and that's where I thrive. One time I took Adderall before I went, thinking that it would help me somehow. I don't know why, and it was the fucking worst decision I ever made. It's like my brain slowed down, and I could only think of one thing at a time, and the wedding was excruciating. So I realized that I have to push it. I have to harness the ADHD when it suits me. You know what I mean?
Yeah, that's funny. You said you were in the Marine Corps?
Yeah, I was, yeah. Yeah.
How long did you serve, and where did you go?
I served 8 years. I was from Seattle, so I went to San Diego for boot camp.
Okay,
don't even have a home.
Stay in the street.
Miramar is what's there now. I was stationed at El Toro. I was part of the base realignment closure group that shut down El Toro in Santa Ana and moved to Miramar. Yeah, so I was part of BRAC for El Toro. Yeah. But,
and you did
good work. Don't back down. There are people who support you and appreciate
photography in the Marines?
Stay salty, brother.
yeah, I was a combat photojournalist, so my job was actually Jokers from Full Metal Jacket. But I served the same job. But I served 92 to 2000, public relations, broadcast journalism, radio and television for overseas. And then I ended up being a journalist for the base newspapers and magazines and stuff for 4 years. In the second 4 years, I was a public relations specialist for the headquarters and headquarters squadron, where I did basically a media liaison. I was at El Toro. I actually worked with Hollywood a lot, and I was a liaison for Tustin and El Toro. They would coordinate whenever Hollywood would show me a movie later, and I started shooting for that kind of stuff later in my career because I had a pretty good understanding of the industry, and I just kind of stepped into it and got a job right away on a TV show. And so that kind of moved me that direction after a while. But in between that, I worked for Home Depot corporate, and I was visual merchant designer. And then I did weddings the whole time. Even when I was an executive at Home Depot, I was shooting weddings on weekends. So I have and then I have a whole photography career. And now I'm an electrician because I went to job school 2 years ago to learn how to be a low voltage electrician because I needed something Monday through Friday. So I have 4 careers in 50 years, basically.
This goes.
Cool.
Hold it a turkey.
Yeah, you're kind of cool, Mike. That was
So I work for the Navy, but because of the way that it's set up, the Marines are under the Navy. So I support.
We're above the Navy. We're above the Navy. They just use us for things.
They're just their taxi. That's all. My husband's in the Navy. My dad was in the Navy. I work for the Navy. My mom works for the Navy. Yeah, but I support marine projects currently.
Oh, cool.
Yeah.
You work at Miramar?
No, so we used to live in San Diego. I worked out on Point Loma. And then my husband was stationed in Coronado on one of the carriers when we lived out there, but we live on the East Coast now.
Okay. I was just talking earlier about how as a journalist at El Toro, I did a story one time on the SEAL training.
Yeah.
I went down to Coronado and spent a week with them, like documenting what they were doing, and that was pretty fun.
Yeah, I liked living in San Diego, like being very like fleet facing. Like where I am now, we don't have a lot of. We have like obviously like military bases here, but it's not very like fleet facing. But we are going to move to Norfolk, so we'll be getting a lot of that.
San Diego is amazing, isn't it?
Oh God, I miss it so. There's like highways right along the beach, like.
Yeah, Laguna Beach.
Oh, man, I'm just like, damn, I miss living out there. It's just, I don't know, it's so different. It's wonderful.
Did you spend any time in Orange County when you were there, or just San Diego? Did you go?
A little bit.
Like Laguna Beach and Newport Beach and.
Yeah.
Yeah, those are the places I have in my head.
Yeah, like San Clemente, like I really liked the beach towns and stuff. Like even my grandpa is actually buried out at the I forget what the
cemetery where all the stars go, whatever that was.
Yeah, Rosecrans Cemetery. Yeah, so my grandpa is buried out there in San Diego. So it was really cool to like go and live in Southern California because it felt like my dad just has like really deep roots in that area. So it was really, because my mom is from where we live now. So like her family has really deep roots here. And then my dad has really deep roots in Southern California. So it was really cool to go and live there for a few years.
One of my vivid memories of first experience with the Navy and the Marine Corps was at boot camp. They sent me to Balboa, which is a hospital, I think, down there in San Diego. Yeah. And for my wisdom teeth to be pulled off, so I went to boot camp. As soon as I got to boot camp, they identified the Navy. And they sent me down to Balboa, and I had a Navy corpsman come in and do the job. And
I'm so sorry for the interruption. Did you say to get your wisdom teeth taken out?
Yeah, all 4 of them in boot camp.
That's so super cool that they identified it and we're like, nope.
They don't want you out in the field to have obstructions and stuff.
Right.
So, But when they do it, they have no fucking sympathy for you because it's a Navy guy and you're in boot camp, Marine Corps boot camp, so he thinks you're like a piece of shit kind of. Well, he treats you like a piece of shit like the drill inspectors do because he doesn't really he just wants to make an experience for you as well. So they did local anesthesia, but not general. And he's I'm like bitching. I'm like, you check it back up. I'm like, it hurts. And he's like, so good. So good, bitch. Like, oh yeah, and he's cracking my teeth out of my skull. Like I remember how it was like, oh shit.
Well, if it makes sense, my husband went to boot camp in like 12 years ago, and when they were pulling his teeth, it was kind of a similar situation, and apparently one of the teeth got like hooked on to his jawbone, and they were just like going to town on it. And it was just like, here's an 800 milligram ibuprofen. Bye.
Oh yeah, I got 24 hours of relief, and then it turned out that the day after I had my teeth pulled, we had combat training where we had to physically punch each other with boxing gloves and shit.
No.
And it was just bad timing. So I had to go. I was already still bleeding from the teeth being pulled, and next thing you know, I'm getting punched for the next. And when you do combat training in the Marine Corps, it's less. I mean, it's a little bit about hand-to-hand combat. But it's different because they're assuming that you're going to be back then. They were assuming you're going to be fighting somebody who's wearing a helmet and a flak jacket, so it's mostly focused on like attacking the face and then getting somebody on the ground so you can stomp on their face. So But one thing they do is there's a lot of people who go to boot camp, they've never been in a fight before. Stand around the hole on the outside, and then they stick the two of you in there with boxing gloves and like face protection, which does absolutely nothing basically. And then you're probably like a 4x4 or a 6x6, 5x5 square. And then you proceed for 30 or 60 seconds to basically punch each other in the face as hard as you can. And all you can do is block your own face. But when you're blocking your face with boxing gloves and someone's punching the boxing gloves, you're basically punching yourself in the face the whole time.
Wow.
So it's basically about getting your ass kicked. And they size you up by height. So they would line us up all by height. And I'm 6'3", and the guy that I had to fight, I was the second tallest guy in the platoon. And the tallest guy was like 6'6", and he was like a quarterback in football in high school. And every time I win, they put me up against the same fucking guy. And he would kick my ass so bad that I'd come out of there and I'd be like, my entire sweatshirt was just filled with blood. My nose was bleeding. I mean, I felt like my nose was broken, but it wasn't. And I had to, you got your ass kicked, buddy. You know.
I mean, do you agree that it made you tougher? Or just more experienced?
Well, boot camp makes you tougher in general. It makes you kind of feel invincible.
Okay.
In the end, you feel kind of invincible. But it definitely toughens you up. I mean, it breaks you down, and then it builds you to zero, and then it builds you up into somebody that is confident in your ability to do kind of anything you need to do. But it also instills, like, adapting and overcoming is a big part of it. So it instills the idea that you're going to fail, but you need to keep trying over and over again as much as possible so that you can ultimately dominate, but you got to learn from your mistakes. You don't do the same thing twice. That's something that people don't know nowadays. Like, younger generation, they're so afraid of failure, they don't even start, you know?
Oh, wow.
I feel like that's a major crutch of younger people today, is that, like, they'll watch the internet, they think that watching someone else do something shows them how to do it, but then they ultimately either are afraid to try it because they don't want to fail, or they do it and they fail the first time and then they lose faith in themselves. You know, out of control egos will try things and fail, and that's one outcome that's not good. And then people who don't have a lot of self-confidence won't even try because they're afraid of failing. And neither one of those things will ultimately lead to success, you know. So I think that's the Marine Corps, the best thing it teaches.
May I ask you guys a question? And I'm not looking for any particular answer, just your take. Do you know how, like, there's certain countries that require people to go into the military? Do you think that would benefit the states? You or Princess or whoever wants.
It would benefit the United States for everybody to be required to serve the government.
So I see it from that lens, and it is definitely very eye-opening. You see a lot of things that most people don't. And you just trust the news or whoever to tell you about it. I definitely think serving in some capacity would be really beneficial for a lot of people.
Right, and the reason I say that is because what I believe about America is that we are ultimately going to fail. Common culture full back on. So, like Japan, they're a tribe essentially on an island, so they're always going to have one another. We don't have one another, and so what used to bind us was patriotism and our faith in our government, and also basically Christianity. Let's be honest. The failure of both of those and the common thread of American society, we don't have anything else to hold us together. So when you add on the influence of, like, greed and selfishness that's basically dominant in the culture because of one-upism as a result of social media influence, things like that, you're basically attacking the core values of what kept us united for the longest time. And I always use the Pledge of Allegiance as an example. Like, we used to have to say Pledge of Allegiance to the United States of America, which stands for one nation under God. So one nation under God, indivisible. We no longer believe that we're one nation under God or indivisible. So we don't even say it. And even if you didn't believe it, you had to say it, which at least was the bare minimum amount of effort for the country to kind of build a, albeit maybe false sense of patriotism in some ways. But we don't do that either. So essentially, we're losing it all. We're losing everything. And if we're a nation of individuals who are divisible, we're going to fail. And so I think that forced government service for young people would not only require them to do something that requires being responsible in an early point in their life, where they'd have to show up to work on time. And when you're sick in the Marine Corps, you got to go to work. You get up, you go to work. Then they might send you home, but you don't get to fucking just call somebody and say, I'm not coming in today. So assuming that they could get all those kind of things, I don't think they have to join the military. But I mean, that's fine. But if you don't believe in God, you're going to find a replacement to believe in. And right now, it appears it's money, and that's stupid because the government is taking more and more money from the middle class people of America by the minute. So if money's your God, and you're having less and less opportunity to have enough of it, you're going to become disenfranchised.
We're failing for the reason you described, like say that. Pledge allegiance, like even if you don't believe in it, just say the words. That goes back to the same.
Yeah.
Like, how do you support the truth if you're just saying words? You're really not. So like the fact that they never believed in this pledge, act like they're pretending like they believed in like one country is indivisible when it never was that. It is the problem. Like say like when we gonna go back to patriotism. Now we never had that. This country has always lied. Always had two different countries. They want to pretend that they're the one. It goes back to the make America great. Like when was it great for everyone? Never. So like it's the same thing. That this country is full of liars and we're built on a lie. And that's why it's never failed because they would never tell the truth.
Well, I'm not black, but I'll say that during World War II, when the country did unite post-war for the Industrial Revolution, we were a pretty united, incredibly patriotic country in general. And if a black person wants to say that's not true because the experience is different, I'm not going to say that you're wrong. I'm not going to say that your experience is wrong.
After World War II, the black soldiers was treated worse than the prisoners of war. The black soldiers came home.
Do you agree with the fact that black service members returning from World War II weren't proud to be American based on their service? I disagree with you entirely.
Do you think that patriotism for soldiers, black or white, might have shifted dramatically, Mike, after Vietnam? Do you think those soldiers came back all happy?
Yeah, I think there was a shift after Vietnam, and I think that 20 years in Afghanistan didn't help either.
What do you attribute the shift to with Vietnam?
The threat of the draft, the people that were afraid to serve in the first place. So,
or perhaps that it was also a lie. Like I'm sure you're familiar with Daniel Eisenberg and the Pentagon Papers.
They didn't know it was a lie when they were protesting. They thought it was, but they didn't.
No. I'm talking about soldiers coming back after they fought. After the.
Well, even when they came back, that's like an armchair quarterback way to look at it. I think, which I don't totally agree with that concept. It's kind of like saying that George W. Bush lied.
What do you attribute it to then? If it's not
what I attribute Vietnam to? I attribute Vietnam.
Soldiers coming back disgruntled versus World War II, where they're like, I agree. I think soldiers were far more patriotic after World War II because that was anything extremely important and cause to end Hitler. But Vietnam, very, very, very different. We had no business there, right? Would you agree with that? History books, right?
We do have history books, but we can't talk about the soldiers then in terms of.
You were just talking about today. Soldiers. You were just telling
you guys,
how patriotic black soldiers were in World War II. So, go ahead, Sarah.
This is Melissa, the other Melissa. Taylor Swift and Travis Kelce are engaged.
Yay! I don't know how you think that intellectually stimulating for her, but more power to them.
You're saying you're a baby in Vietnam, but you were telling Hakima that black soldiers were coming back after World War II patriotic. So
you know what's funny, Moose? Literally while we was talking, I'm driving Uber. I had an older gentleman in the backseat, an older black man. I had no idea who he was. He was getting out the car. I had to listen to what I said. He said, I'm a service member. Now he had to be like 65, 70. Of course, it wasn't World War II, probably Vietnam. But he said everything you said is exactly right. I'm like, how would you have time to tell these people that? He's like, no, I don't got time, but you stand up for what you just said, because everything you just said is 100%.
That he didn't look at his fellow Marines like that. taking action against.
But underground logic, don't do this, and not.
No, Amir, you don't have to preach to the choir. I understand why all this is happening. I understand the logical and the rationale behind Hamas. That does not necessarily mean that I have to agree with any form of violence.
No, I understand.
Why?
I didn't ask about Hamas much.
And just a second, this is the question you should perhaps ask the most notable person, one of the most notable people of all, which is Jesus Christ. What did Jesus during the shut the fuck up? What did Jesus say during the Roman Empire, which was I would even argue.
I wasn't talking about Jesus Christ. I was talking about you. Let's say you've been through atrocities. I was asking you. Let's say God forbid something happens to your mom in front of you. How would you resist? What would you do? Would you pick up something, shovel, or whatever you could do?
Where you're going with this. And I understand that the violence breeds the use of violence in response, up to the use of violence to remove the obstacles of living a fulfilled life, living with equality. That's not the point that I'm trying to make here. I understand what you're saying. I understand the rationale behind it. You don't have to sit preaching to me about the rationale.
No, what would you do? I'm asking you. What would you do? That's all I'm asking. What would you do in that situation?
I don't like hypothetical questions, but of course, if somebody's going to come in and hit me, I'm going to hit them back. I'm going to respond. I'm going to defend my own.
So you will pick up, you'll pick up a baseball bat or something, right? And then you hit him?
Probably.
Let him finish. I want to hear this, brother. Respectfully.
For a lot less.
I know, but I want to hear this really quick.
For a lot less, I've gotten into physical fights. That's not the issue. That's not the issue.
That is.
Looking at huge examples in history. Through the Roman Empire, which by far was worse than what we are currently. Everything that you can have your own opinion. But to impose that on me, or to talk to me like I don't understand the rationale behind what's going on in my own homeland. You guys just sound nuts. You
said that I'll defend by hitting back, and then you said, "Oh, Hamas." Like, what the fuck are you talking about, you piece of shit? The fuck are you even saying?
You know what? You can go fuck off. You just sound like a very miserable piece of shit, just like the other people on this path. No, just go and continue to be so negative and just so like repulsive.
Keep bending over.
Who are you
No, I
hanging
need to bend over for nothing, but you don't speak for all Palestinians, and I represent a huge segment of Palestinians. I just wanted to come say hi. I wasn't really trying to help.
Yeah, thank you for coming. No, I just wondering.
I come later, but Abu, you don't intimidate and just
I have a question.
Other Palestinians. It doesn't matter. There is diversity within our society, and
I have a question.
Under mind.
I'm asking.
Continue my life here.
I'm asking. Oh my God.
Yeah,
Los Angeles is not that nice stuff.
it's way better than a lot of other places in Los Angeles. So anyway, guys, I just wanted to come and say hi. And I would cut your head off.
You wouldn't do a thing. Are you doing shit?
I would just shut the fuck up, you dumbass.
So he comes in here preaching against violence. What a fucking scumbag. Preaching against violence.
What, like, you know, a lot of people say, oh, you know, what is it? Violence begets violence and stuff like that. But I get that. But at some point, when you have did everything that you could do, sometimes to resist, like how I mean, just the way a lot of oppressed people have resisted. It's the last straw. It's the last straw. When you have done everything else possible, and your day-to-day life is still misery, you're still oppressed, you're still being killed. This is the last straw. So it's not like he makes it seem like all of a sudden it's like in a vacuum. Oh, these are just savages and stuff like that. No, and I hope he wasn't like saying anything about Martin Luther King, because a lot of people do that. And then towards the end of towards the end when Martin Luther King, and you guys can Google this, he even said, I feared that I brought my people into a burning house. After he died, his people were given civil rights. So
with regards to what you're saying, these kinds of people want to give up everything, want to give up their weapons. Essentially what the PA has become. They've given up all their weapons and now they're sitting on their laurels.
Bro, he gave up
because
his
they
ass,
can't
bro.
defend.
He gave up his ass.
We know he gave up everything. He gave the inside of his ass as well. But that's another story.
Oh, yeah.
With regards to, no, but these people, essentially, I do not understand where one side is armed to the teeth and they're expecting the people who are being oppressed to give up their weapons.
AT came to the mic with all that pompousness just to go.
I don't know why Elizabeth doesn't come up. She's got so much to say in the chat. Like, just come on. Be nice to hear. Jakob's gonna donate money. He's gonna donate a couple bucks to cover the income. Oh man. He's like, but why are you still low? The icon of a male.
About this, I'm not laughing anymore because they just came after me.
Buttercup tried to character assassinate Grace this morning over this. But didn't care what the message was. I played that video, didn't give a fuck. That kids are getting beat up, getting held hostage, getting fucking kidnapped in their own universities. Didn't care about any of that.
We had to get Grace this morning.
Yeah.
It was called Let's Get the Canter.
Yeah, Grace endorsing semen is what she pointed out. I'm like, no, it's income.
You can tell, if you take Freudian analysis, you can tell exactly what these people have entrenched in their subconscious. Unbelievable, man.
John, what do you think of the
room?
Norm, is it okay if he reads us a poem? Yes, I'll have to give that.
Is all the time showing off. Lovers dissolve and become bewildered. Intellectuals try not to drown, while the whole purpose of love is drowning. Intellectuals invent ways to rest and then lie down. That's how a lover sits with intellectuals, there but alone in a circle of himself. Some intellectual tries to give sound advice to a lover. All he hears back is, I love you. I love you. Love is musk. Men getting younger and younger. Shams chose to live in the roots for you. So now he soars in the air.
That'd be a good conversation.
I mean, I just get the feeling that Amir doesn't really live with all that much love in his heart or in his surroundings. Must be very difficult to be such a cranky old bugger.
Yeah, love is powerful.
Especially when it comes from unexpected places, towards unexpected places.
Has he encouraged his worshippers to come here at all? I'm not on. Today's the longest day I've been on.
Okay, fine. I just.
Banks, and it's like, okay, that system doesn't
Just for a while.
And you know what's and that's what killed me, man. It says at the bottom, Lyle.
The group is relatively homogeneous.
So finally figured out.
Because the more we're
exposed to one another, the more we see the humanity in one another, and the more we accept each other as people who are like ourselves. I said that fucking big, but get in a situation 4% one population and 96% the other population, yeah, it's fucking fraught with all. So racism is a lack of exposure. On Clubhouse, you get people from, I mean, who the fuck knows these people are sitting when they're talking, man? A lot of them probably live in neighborhoods where there is no black people in high school or whatever. And then they're in here talking about racist issues, and frankly, they are not experts because they have no experience with it.
By having an opinion of black people, right?
Oh, a lot of black people will tell you that white people don't have an opinion about their issues at all because we're not black. And that's bullshit. I live in Atlanta. We're an interracial city.
That's what I mean. Can you give me an example of one of those set opinions?
Well, I don't. Okay. So, as someone who shot weddings with black families, I noticed that black people are almost always late compared to white people. Okay, that's my experience with weddings. I've also noticed that black people at the receptions have way more fun and are way. Yeah, that too. Well, that's real. But so I realize that stereotype's real. Okay, but I've also realized that white people suck at having fun, and black people are way better at having fun. So culturally, they are more. They're tighter knit amongst one another. White people are more selfish between one another. I've noticed that difference. Like these things, when I talk about them, for someone to say, "Oh, you're white, so your opinion doesn't matter, or it's not right, or you shouldn't," fucking true. Now, if I hadn't been around these situations at all in my life, like when I was 18 years old, I grew up in Issaquah, Washington. There was one black person and 2,500 people in my high school. So no, I didn't know this stuff then, but I do now, and I have a right to say it because I know more than other white people who grew up in a place with no experience. So I don't know. Like I think the people that have experience and personal help, then maybe your opinion isn't as valid in the conversation, and you should step out for your own fucking reasons, not because someone tells you to. Like, not every opinion is fucking equal. Not every opinion matters. Like, we've completely lost the ability to respect somebody with a fucking PhD in a subject that put 12 years of study into something that we found on the internet on our own. We've lost the ability to represent their opinion as more important than our own. That's just fucking retarded. Because we're doing this to each other. It's stupid. It's like arguing with an astronaut about flat Earth or arguing with a pilot about flat Earth. You're fucking stupid, okay? Arguing with a doctor about vaccines? Well, you're not as stupid as the former, but it's not a very good thing to do considering they put thousands of hours into their craft and you, I don't know, hang light bulbs for a living. And you have access to, and you both have access to the internet. Like, what the fuck? No, it's not. No, let me make that straight, Akima. Go look at the definition of appeal to authority. Appeal to authority only applies when the person actually isn't relevant as a subject matter expert. Believing a subject matter expert is not appeal to authority. You can look at the definition. I'll read it to you if you want to, but go look at it yourself. Read it through the lens of whether or not you're dealing with a subject matter expert. I'm not upset. I'm walking around. No, I'm not. You can gaslight the room that I'm upset, but I'm not. Passion is not anger at all. I'm talking about something that is important to me. So you can categorize it as race is important. Yeah, race is important to me because I'm a race.
There's been plenty of passionate and raised voices because of something that people feel very strongly about. And I think it's encouraged here. It doesn't break a rule if you're not interrupting. It doesn't break a rule if you're being respectful, things like that. And that's what these things are for, is to share these conversations.
And honestly, you don't know this because I'm not a person. I'm pacing right now. When I start thinking and when I start feeling passionate about something, I stand up and start moving while I'm talking. It's an ADHD thing, I guess. And as I walk, my energy increases and my heart rate raises and then my voice gets louder. It's not anger.
Not for me. So there might be other people that are hot when they're like this, but that's not me. It just me. I'm in the groove. I'm feeling heard. I'm talking about things that mean something to me. Like when that happens, my voice raises, it speeds up, and I end up pacing. It's not anger. If I was anger, I'd be like punching a wall and leaving the freaking room or something.
Political spectrum in the United States, which is what we're talking about.
Thank you.
The vast majority of Jews are, and they make up the Democratic Party. If you look at the leadership in Congress and in state legislatures, 90 to 95% of the Jewish representatives are Democrats, and 90 to 95% of the blacks are Democrats.
Not just politically. I think what he's saying is like lifestyle, culturally. Like, how's their family structure? Would you say it's more liberal?
No, it's
exactly. See, what I'm saying is that you preach liberalism to everyone else, right?
What percentage of Jews
you practice conservative values in your own personal life? And that's
what percentage of Jews? There are 7 million Jews in the United States.
Those values, and that's why you guys are so powerful. Even though
this is what you don't seem to understand. This is what you don't understand. There are 7 million Jews in the United States right now. Okay, most of them live in the New York City area. Out of those 7 million Jews, only 10% are Orthodox. Only 10%. Now, those 10% of the Orthodox are very religious, are very conservative, tend to vote Republican, do support Trump. That's absolutely true. 10%. 10%. Only 50% of Jews actually belong to a synagogue. Okay? And only like 30% ever go to a synagogue in the first place. So no, you don't seem to understand what you think Jewish is a religion. No, it's not. It's an ethno. It's a different ball of wax. Are we a race? No, we're multiracial, but we are a specific ethnic group and nationality. We're not just a religion. I'm an atheist Jew who doesn't belong to a temple, but who does go to the temple periodically and celebrates the holidays. So where do you get that? We're our own animal. It's you can't compare it. And to say that there's conservative, no, the conservative Jewish lifestyle, particularly in the United States, 10% Orthodox. Even in Israel, you would think that there would be more Orthodox in Israel. No, there's maybe 10 to 12% of Israelis are Orthodox. That's it. That's it. So this idea is bullshit. The majority of Jews in the United States are progressive. They are moderate to left, progressive. Almost all are Democrats. And again, it tracks very similar to the Black American population as well. It's the same thing.
Very similarly to Black American population.
This family structure, I don't know why you're like have a big deal about that. That's not relevant to the conversation of politics.
Much more.
That's not.
There's a difference between political conservatism and social conservatism, right? What you practice, how attached you are to your religious doctrine, how attached you are to living within those parameters.
Right.
I would say, again, there's two different spectrums of conservatism as it relates to Jewish people. There's the Zionist conservatism, which is
I got a large family. Four grandparents. I came from Eastern Europe in the late 1800s. Okay, and I have a branch of the family that's been living in Israel since 1900. So I sort of have going back to the point that you keep making. The whole population, it's 10%. So yes, they exist, but they exist as a very small group that's different.
If you were to ask me who I promote, Zionist spectrum, correct?
Oh, absolutely. I consider myself, I am a pro-Palestinian Zionist. That's what I am.
Awesome.
Okay? All right, because people don't understand the word Zionism. I grew up with the word Zionism. The only thing that Zionism means is that you support the idea that the Jewish people should have a homeland, and not describing what that homeland is, should have some homeland in the area in the Middle East around Jerusalem. That's all it means. That's it.
Based on what?
That's all it means. That's all it means.
How old is the idea that Israel should be in that? Isn't that a conservative value that you're?
That's not a no. That's not a no. That's Israel.
No.
It's the idea. It's the idea of national identity is what it is. Okay. All right. People in Armenia, there are like many more Armenians that live outside of actual Armenia. Okay. But if Armenia didn't exist and you have like 15 million Armenians that live outside, don't you think they deserve to have a land that represents them where they are a majority population? I think the same thing's for the Kurds. The Kurds, there are millions, tens of millions of Kurds that have their own language, they have their own identity, they have their own history. They should have their own country where they're the majority in northern Iraq and in southern Turkey. They absolutely should have their own. And the Palestinians, no matter what their history is, no matter you can argue about it, they are a specific identity that have an attachment to the land where they are a majority. They are a majority in Gaza, in the West Bank. They should be given the right, just like the Jews were given the right to the Israeli borders within the 1967 borders. The Palestinians, who've always lived there, should have their own land, and that's their land that they run themselves. Period. End of story.
What about Black Americans, Ben? Do you think that Black Americans should have their own nation state as well?
Well, first of all, technically, that's what Liberia was about. Liberia was about Black Americans going back and starting their own state. So technically, you have that. But as a Black American, do you identify with that? First of all, I think that Black, it's too large a group. It's not like it's attached to a land. I live in Burkina Faso, okay? And the fact of the matter is, even Burkina Faso is completely artificial. Who do you think made up the borders of Africa?
Are you saying that that's like Black American reparations in Liberia? Is that what you're doing?
What if you want to sit there and say that how should Black Americans have a country?
That's what you're saying. Just say it with your chest.
No. I'm not saying it should be that way. I'm not saying it should be that way. I'm saying is that not why Liberia was created?
I think it was more of a settler colonial project. I think it was a failed attempt to have a settler colonial project on the continent as opposed to a real homeland for Black Americans. In reality, a real homeland for Black Americans would be.
How can you have a homeland for Black Americans when there's some Black Americans? But first of all, I have to tell you, having lived in Africa for 5 years, the strongest connection to the people here are with their traditional tribes. So I live in Burkina Faso, which is 60% of the Mossi nation, the Mossi people. And there's also the Diala people. There's 51 separate identities, but 60% of them are organized around the Mossi people. The head of the Mossi people, the Naba, have much more power than the president of Burkina Faso. People identify with their identity. They have their own language. It's the Moray language. And most of the people in Burkina Faso speak Moray to each other. On a daily basis, they also speak French because that's sort of how if you speak a different language, they can at least connect with the common language. But the culture It's been there for centuries.
What does that have to do with Black Americans?
Well, what I'm saying is these cultural identities are the real identity. I'm just saying that
we can't hear you for some reason. Like, you're here, man, but we don't hear you. It's like you talking about it.
Yeah, something like that. I don't know. It's sort of like I think that there's been a certain amount of curiosity of Black Americans visiting Africa, and I get notes from people who are asking, "What's it like living in Burkina Faso?" Or do you think that it's a good idea? What I would do to move there, things like that.
Somewhere room noisy. I think we need to, reset the room and center this guy too when he's talking too much.
Yeah.
Topic. They want to actually talk about the topic.
Okay. Well, Lonzo was leading the room.
People, people in the audience, they want to actually talk about the topic.
I think Corporate Barbie wanted to get into. I think she wanted to say something.
What if Trump's make DC actual safer?
What was that? I'll shut up if somebody has something to say.
I thought Corporate Barbie had something to say.
I did. I was trying to get more info about the topic, like what have y'all been discussing before I got here, before I respond.
I think that's a question from Notorious Al and Amici, came in a little bit later.
Huh?
I said I think there's a question for Lonzo, Al, and Notorious. They were in the very beginning. I wasn't here at the very.
Oh, okay. Lonzo, could y'all give me like what everybody was saying before I respond?
I think the topic had just started when I got in here. Ben started talking. So, but what's your thoughts on the topic? How do you feel about it? I mean, I think it started.
I feel like what Trump is doing in DC is that. Let me just ask y'all this: do y'all feel like he's making DC safer, based on what y'all know?
I don't get it because we keep on going back to the point that in DC and these other cities that he's talking about, there's been a 30% reduction in violent crime, period. And the only way that he has an excuse to put military into the cities is if there's like an extreme emergency. What happened January 6th? January 6th was an extreme emergency. And he didn't call in the military then.